Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Mother. In the last part, we got here to this area, now we're going to continue on. Welcome to the Monkey Cave, which is just your basic maze. In fact, I think they actually changed the layout from the Japanese version. There's no enemies in this place, however, there are some monkeys you can talk to get some pretty, actually really funny dialogue. I'm willing to talk to one of them because he's the only one I want to talk to. And I'll tell you right now, there's also two items you can get. I actually missed one by not going left there, and that was a PSI stone. And I'm gonna get another one, thankfully, later on. PSI stones, by the way, are pretty much like the big bag, only they work for your PP instead of your HP. Now, the thing is about the Monkey Cave is that I'm really glad it's a labyrinth and not what it was in Earthbound, because in Earthbound, it was one of those areas that you pretty much need to continuously get items over and over again for the monkeys in order to progress. For those who have played Majora's Mask, it's very similar to the area under the well, actually, in Ikana. And this is the one I want to talk to because he gives us something, which is a quick capsule, which I'm going to use on Lloyd. Because he needs the speed, honestly. The interesting thing about this area is if you go to the center of this room, you'll actually find a bunch of monkeys in like a central hub. And apparently there's a penguin who's trapped, essentially. Odd, but I'll take it. Now, the thing is, I'm actually going to be cutting out of this area, because the only other exit is down here, and it's an exit into Magic Cant, which I don't want to take. So I'm going to have to walk all the way back through it. So, needless to say, I cut back out for your guys' pleasure. Well, that was the thing. I also just noticed I'm recording at a far too low input level, so I actually just fixed that. Anyway, welcome back to Yucca Desert. Not much left to do here, honestly. There's a pile of bones. By the way, as you may have heard there, if you ever hear a weird little breen sound effect after I ended out a random battle, that's because I likely used 4th dimensional slip. Because sometimes the sound effect bleeds out into the overworld. I don't know why. Either way, next new enemy is an Ultra Barbot, known as a Death Barbot in Japan. Not very interesting enemies. They can drop a plasma beam, though. However, the real interesting thing here in this battle is the Atomic Power Robot, also known as an Energy Robot. They are interesting in the fact that they self-destruct when they die first off, which deals around 70 damage. In fact, you just saw that. However, they can also heal themselves and other enemies. And they're interesting enemies, though, because as far as I can recall, they appear in all 3 Mother games. Not many enemies get to do that pleasure. Or get that pleasure, rather. And that's the first on-screen level up we've actually had in a while. Anyway, this is an interesting little thing. Step here. Certificate. Kyle, we acknowledge the fact that you did step on the mine in the Yucca Desert. Keep this place to yourself, please. Signed, Shigesato Itoi. So yeah, that one landmine he left in here, yeah, we stepped on it. That actually affects some dialogue later on. Some people will actually make mention of that. Anyway, next new enemy is a Gabilan. Very vanilla enemy. They only appeared here in the desert and in one of the train tunnels that I told you about earlier. However, the weird thing is they're the rare encounter of the desert. However, as far as I'm aware, the rarest encounter is when you encounter one. They usually appear in groups of 2 to 4. In fact, I don't think I've ever fought just one. Anyway, here we are, pretty much one of the southernmost tips of the desert. I cut here because it was just a needless backtrack, really. Because now we're done here in the desert, and we want to head south. You can pretty much head south of anywhere in the desert, but I wanted to do there because it needs to be a recognizable area. And here we are on the train tracks. These are the ones that actually technically lead from Union Station, but since the bridge was destroyed, we couldn't really do anything about that. By the way, by following these tracks, we will get to our next destination, Youngtown. Head southwest to the clearing, and we get to the area. It's right through a fence. Now, one thing I want to mention is that the music in this area would later be remixed in Earthbound to become Paula's theme. And I gotta say, love this town. Well, this song. The thing about this town is that there's pretty much no adults around. They've all pretty much been kidnapped. There is still, I think, 1 pair of adults, and they're with a baby at the moment, so let's go check that out, the Garrickson baby. Obviously, everything I'm saying you learn from the NPCs, so I recommend you talk to. I really do recommend you talk to them throughout the game. Anyway, the mom here's a special sprite. You might really recognize it. It's just Anna's sprite without the hat when we first met her. I can't tell if that's lazy or just genius, because if you're not playing the game originally, you might not remember that. Either way, this baby seems special. Let's use telepathy on it. Yes, even though my body is that of a baby like you, I possess psychic abilities. I know the power of teleportation. Use this power to return to a place you've been to. The baby taught him this power of teleportation. Teleport is pretty much a generic teleport spell. It takes you to whichever town you've already been to. Something special about it, however, it requires a running start, and if you hit something during that running start, you have to start all over again. Thankfully, you can change your direction while using teleports, but you slowly speed up, so it gets to the point where it's really hard to finagle yourself around corners. Finagle your way around corners, rather. Either way, if you're wondering where the inn and shop are, they're right here. I used the inn, and I cut past it, and I cut into the shop. Now, here in the shop, there's a couple things you can get. First off, I recommend you get the air gun, which is just an overall better weapon for Lloyd. However, it also has the non-stick pen, which technically is Anna's next dedicated weapon. However, it's weaker than the boomerang, so I'm not going to get it, because, you know, the boomerang is just an overall better weapon. I'll admit, she still doesn't do that much damage, even with it. But I'd rather her do, like, 5 damage in comparison to 1. Because really, once you get Paula, that's when... Anna, that's when the game's difficulty spikes quite a decent amount. Either way, we're already done here in Youngtown. We want to head here into the swamp. Which, I will warn you, is probably the hardest area that we've been to so far. It's big, and there's a lot of pretty difficult enemies. Thankfully, there is a place we can heal in the middle of it. It's also a gigantic maze. Either way, next new enemy is an Omega Saucer, very vanilla enemies, nothing really special about them. They can use some sort of PK attack, but I can't recall what. Though, admittedly, they do remind me of giant flying pieces of pepperoni. They also remind me of something else, but I'd rather not name that thing. Now, I might be one-shotting some enemies still, but let me tell you, I'm still not over-leveled. Though, since we're over level 25, I just realized we can actually go fight the dragon. Huh, I'll do that next part. No, I forget, did they actually lessen the encounter rate from the Japanese version? I honestly can't tell. Either way, to go a bit off topic, Mario Maker actually just came out a couple days ago. I still have to get that. But the best part about that day is that I already have 3 new amiibo. I finally got myself a Silver Mario, finally found a Ganondorf because those just came out. And I have an 8-bit Mario, which is awesome. Hey, a trash can! I'm Lloyd's father. Lloyd, I think your dad's trash-talking me. I think Ninten's dad asked, but you told him your name, right? Yes. Okay, that's fine. Please look after Lloyd. He's a real weakling. Yeah, if you didn't tell Ninten's dad your name, you can tell him that. Pippi? What are you doing here? It's me, Pippi. We meet once again, Ninten. Don't say anything, but I didn't tell my mom I came here. You must be tired. Why don't you stay here tonight? And this place is a free inn, which makes this one of the best places in the game, really, to level grind. That's why I'm gonna do it. I'm grinding everyone up. I'm gonna stop when Ninten reaches level 30. Well, I stopped when Ninten reached level 30, rather, because, obviously, the entire thing is already recorded. We learned some new PSI along the way, but you should be able to tell just by looking through the... Well, actually, no, I think I'll go over the PSI next part, because that'll be right before the dragon. It's weird, though. There's a lot of new enemies in the desert and in the swamp, but I rarely ran into any of them. That's how... Don't look at me like that. Aside from mooks. And their very phallically shaped heads are rather tricky enemies. They don't have much HP, obviously, but they can use PK Freeze Alpha, which doesn't really hurt much, Hypnosis, and a Paralysis spell. So these guys are pretty dangerous in terms of the status effects they can use. And if you have it, use PSI Block to do stuff. They can raise their defense as well, which can become annoying. They're not terribly hard, especially if you only encounter one, but if you encounter groups of 2 or more, then it can get tricky. Really, really tricky. God, though, that face. Ugh. Mooks are actually characters that would also appear in no, in Earthbound, rather. But they look very different. They actually have eye stalks instead of that face. But you'll see that when I eventually do Earthbound, because I do want to do the entire trilogy at some point. Mother 3 will be a tough one, though, because of the sound delay I might have. And with that, we're actually technically out of the swamp. We're still heading towards the next town, however, we have to get there first. I recommend just following the water. It'll get you there eventually. Next new enemy is a seagull, with some really, really badly sprited wings. Ugh, that's an awful sprite. Now, first off, these guys hit hard, so watch out for that. However, the weird thing is, as you may have seen, I know I already put it up on the side there, is their check dialogue is that thief. Obviously, when you use the check command on an enemy, it'll show that kind of dialogue. That's why that secondary box has been aside from the stats the entire game. However, as far as I'm aware, they cannot steal anything. So that's odd. I suppose maybe if you had bread, it might be able to steal that, but at this point, bread's lost all use, because you're trying to head forward, not backtrack. Though, actually, I suppose there is one point you might end up back in Ninten's house fairly soon. Coming up in the next town, there's a choice where you have to make, where you can say yes or no to a character. If you say no 3 times, you'll actually be instantly transported back to Ninten's house. Anyway, let's check this sign. Ellay to the west, swamp to the south. Obviously, Ellay is a verbal pun off Los Angeles because this game is supposed to take place in America. Though that would be later turned into Eagle Land in Earthbound. The weird thing about Ellay, actually, is that there's a lot of unique NPCs here that don't really do much. There's a bunch of people in blue, too. Don't talk to them. They're BB gang members, and even at my level, like there's one right there and there, they are pretty tough enemies. By the way, BB gang stands for blah blah gang. Anyway, here in the department store, there's only one thing you want to get, and that is a ticket, which we want. And here's where you use them. And it's a tank guy. You broke my tank. It was my most prized possession. I have to pay $200 for the repairs. Will you make restitution now? Yes. Thank you and goodbye. That only happens, obviously, if you use the whole tank thing. By the way, if you talk to this person, you can buy a ticket. It says the store is sold out. And it'll sell it for $1,200. Do not do that. You can buy it for just over a fourth of the price at the store. And here's this place. I think the Chaos Theater from Earthbound was inspired by this place. Now, whatever you do not talk to that woman below me. She'll offer you an alcoholic drink, and if you take it, police will break in, take you to jail, and I think you lose all your equipment, too. So, don't do that. Either way, the reason you want to come here is talk to the guy in the upper left corner with the blue hair. However, I'm going to be silent for the section that causes it, but I will say, if you're playing a badly dumped ROM, as you can see, the game kind of freezes here. That's because it's checking to make sure it's not a pirated cartridge. If it figures it out that it is, your game will freeze. Either way, enjoy this music. There was no real way I could commentate over that, honestly. Thanks for your nice song. By the way, you guys beat up on my friends. I didn't fight a single one of them. I know you did it. Who's the boss? I'll teach him a lesson. Alright, next boss is against the BB boss. And let's tell you what to do here. Only Ninten can move? Odd. And neither of us really hurt each other, huh? Also, fun fact, this guy's sprite is holding a knife and his left elbow is different in Japan for some reason. Don't know why. He gets the hippie theme, too. I don't understand that. What? Neither of us killed each other. Haha! You're quite strong. Your name's Ninten. Let's call it a draw, then. I seek vengeance for my parents. To the mountains! Sure. I'm sure I'll make a good team. Let's get going. And Teddy joins our party. You there, the one with the glasses. You're not so good at fighting, are ya? Rest here while I borrow your goods, okay? You can actually learn what happened to his parents by talking to NPCs around the place, and if you talk to the BB gang members while he's in your party, they actually won't fight you. Anyway, let's take a look at Teddy. He's level 18 natively, but he's a really strong level 18. So strong in the fact that we're actually going to fight the dragon next part with him. I'm going to get the obvious equipment that I need to get him and a magic can't, though. I'm also going to grind him up 2 levels just so he can be at an even 20. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and next part we will be fighting the aforementioned dragon and seeing what we can do after that. See you guys then!